If you have kept fish before, you would have definitely seen these guys here. These are discus fish. Now, a lot of people tell you that these are difficult fish to keep and that you, as a beginner, should not get them. Now, this is partly true, because if you're a beginner, I would definitely not advise you to get discus, because they are not the easiest fish. But are they really that difficult to keep? That's what I'll be discussing in today's video, because I want to give you guys a bit more of an insight into what keeping discus is really like, since I do get quite a few questions every week or every now and then about keeping discus. And yes, I know on YouTube there's a ton of videos on, you know, care requirements, care guides for discus fish, things like that. This video is not going to be like that, because I'm just going to tell you what my experiences are and basing my things on like just experience of having them, so practical everyday today things. And yeah, basically that's what I'm just gonna do. So instead of less of the theoretical side, I'm more gonna do the practical side and what does it practically look like keeping discus fish. Because if you don't know, I do have discus fish. So if we go over here, actually it is very dark here, but I do have my rack here with discus fish. I actually breed discus fish, and that's the main thing I do for discus. And that is also the thing I enjoy most about discus, is breeding them, because if you don't know already, the breeding process for discus is very fascinating. It's really cool to see. I actually have a video on how to breed discus and actually a full care guide. Watch that video here because you'll see there how to breed discus and how that kind of goes in its works. It's really cool to see, and if you can ever experience it, it's just so amazing to watch. Because basically what these guys will do, they'll lay eggs, then you know the eggs become wigglers, then the wigglers become free swimmers, and they stick to like the sides of the parents and then eat from their slime coat. It's so cool to see. So I definitely, maybe if you one time can go to a discus breeder and have a look, definitely do it. It's worth it for sure. So if you ask me, are discus fish hard to keep? I'll probably say no. And the reason for that is that they're really not that difficult and sensitive as people say they are. Now, I think this would be different if we look back like 20, 30, 40 years maybe, because back then, you know, discus were pretty new in the hobby maybe, and a lot of them were, you know, caught from the wild. And so yes, then they would be more sensitive because they didn't really know what our water parameters are like nowadays, and they were used to the settings of the wild. But today in 2025, you know, we're in 2025 already, we've got discus that are used to your local water essentially. You know, if you go to a breeder that is maybe, you know, like half an hour down the road or whatever, probably their water is going to be not that much different of what you have at home coming from your tap, which means the baby discus that you are going to buy from that breeder are already used to your water, making them not so sensitive for that aspect at least. Now, there are different aspects of discus keeping that are more sensitive and are a bit more difficult. Mainly, I would say, is the feeding. Discus can be terrible eaters. Sometimes I'll have discus and they won't eat at all, and I don't know why, but it is insane. Like, discus can be really picky eaters and very difficult. I mean, I try to feed my discus just once a day for these pairs, but definitely if you have younger discus, you want to be feeding them a couple of times a day so they actually can grow. And yeah, it can be quite difficult. That's why what I like to do, when I get them young, I usually tend to get them around this size. You know, what is this, like 5-6 centimeter size? I recommend you do that. Or you could go for a little bit bigger if you are a bit less experienced with growing fish out, because you do want to grow fish out well and like in a good way, because you don't want to end them up having like being stunted, because then you're just going to have not very good discus, and you know, like overall you're not going to have like the biggest discus, which that's kind of the end goal, right? Because for example, if you come over here, these discus here are absolutely massive. I don't know if you can see, but just by my hand, and like that's the male there, that's the female, but they are absolutely massive, and it doesn't really give a good sense because, you know, how the camera works. But we also have this pair here. This pair is a bit smaller though, and you maybe can kind of see that on camera too. I'm not sure. I'll get some better shots of these guys, of course. But yeah, in general, you know, maybe it's better to get some bigger ones instead of 2 small ones, because then there's less chance of you stunting them. But I'd definitely say, you know, the feeding is maybe the most difficult part of keeping discus. You know, a lot of people also say, oh, you need to do 100% water change every day if you keep discus. Now, that's completely not true. Nothing of that is true. I'm sure people out there who do that and that works for them, great, you know, keep doing what you do. But if you ask me, you really don't have to do 100% water changes every day. Now, these guys here, I tend to do just 1 water change a week, about 50%. So I'll take about 50% out like this, and that'll just be 1 water change. Just 1 week, 1 water change a week, that's it. And they tend to do fine. I really don't have any issues. Now, the case is different when you have young discus and you're growing them out. Then you want to do them a bit more often, mainly so that you get really rid of the... So when you're growing out discus, the bigger ones will release a hormone into the water, which kind of stunts the smaller ones, and it's basically makes sure that they can't grow as quick. It's basically like a defense mechanism in the wild that they use. But, you know, you want to get rid of that water. So when you're growing out, I would say every 2 or 3 days, you at least want to do a 50% water change, maybe even more often. But once you've got adult discus, you do not need to do that many water changes. Now, definitely the key to keeping discus successfully is also having a good water temperature. These guys like it warm, like really hot, you know. I keep them personally at about 30 degrees Celsius, sometimes going up to 32. What is that in Fahrenheit? Like 86 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. And they tend to do well at that range. And also for breeding, of course, you want them warmer temperatures. But yeah, don't go keeping discus at like 25, 26 degrees Celsius. It's just not warm enough for them. They will not do well in the end. Get them up into that higher temperatures, a minimum 28. Rather have them go up to like 30, you'll be better off. And you know, that is kind of it. I would say what does help with keeping discus, in my opinion, is having just a bare bottom tank. Now, I know if you have the discus as your display in your living room, you don't per se want a bare bottom tank. But I will say, if you do have a bare bottom tank with basically nothing in it, it's super simple, because you can easily do a water change. All the detritus and poop that is on the bottom, you can easily suck out, and there's no issues there. Because, you know, when you have like an aquascape with plants and substrate and things like that, then maybe some food can get into some spots and you can't really reach it, and then it starts rotting, creating problems. You know, don't get me wrong, you can definitely keep discus in a aquascape with plants and like a real substrate, definitely. But it's just not the easiest way of keeping them, you know? This is definitely the easiest way, but I do understand that not everybody wants to have it like this. But yeah, you know, overall, discus are just not that difficult. And there's a lot of people who still swear by them being the most difficult fish on the planet, or the most difficult fish in the aquarium hobby. And I definitely do not believe that. I think there are way more difficult fish out there. Like, if you think of like maybe some rare wild caught species, maybe some rare betta wild caught species, or some other wild caught, you know, those will probably be more difficult than keeping discus that have been bred in your area and are used to your water parameters. So, you know, I think the case is different when you're keeping wild discus. Then yes, that is a bit more difficult, and they are a bit more sensitive. But the common discus nowadays, they're so commercialized. You know, if you get some good quality ones, now that is a big thing as well, get good quality discus. Don't go buying the cheapest discus you find, or, I mean, doesn't really have to correlate with the price, but make sure they look good. So make sure they are big, fat, healthy, they don't look skinny, they don't have like these big gills, because that can be gill flukes. And you just want to make sure also that the eye of the fish compared to its body is like small, because that will mean it's not stunted. If the fish has a big eye and a small body, like relatively, you know, then that means that fish is stunted, because, you know, that body is not growing that much, but that eye is. So yeah, then you've got a stunted fish that will probably never get much bigger. But anyways, there you have it. That's me rambling on about discus. Enough of that. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'll be happy to answer any discus related questions. Also, if you want a part 2 kind of to this video on like breeding discus, also let me know, because Yes, for breeding discus, there are a few more different requirements, and breeding discus, I would say, is one of the more difficult things in the aquarium hobby. It's definitely not the easiest. So yeah, if you want a video on that, let me know. I kind of already had that video, you know, which I'll probably link here on the end screen as well to watch next, because there's, you know, give a care guide and bit of breeding as well. But anyways, don't forget to become a member down below. Actually, hit that link down there, join, and you get exclusive content and perks and behind the scenes videos. I do actually member-only videos every week now, so if you're interested in that kind of thing and you want to support me, join the join button or click the join button down below. There's also a link, and you can join there. Also check out our channel sponsor, Kings Aquariums and Antworld. Their links are also down below. And don't forget to hit the like. You know, the like is the most important thing. Hit that like button. Also subscribe if you're new. You know, if you're new, hit that subscribe button down below. I do appreciate you subscribing. But anyways, that's it. So watch this video next, where you can see a more in-depth guide on how to keep discus and how to breed them, things like that. That video will be here. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.